This is the Extreme Stewardship Podcast, where we explore anything and everything that gets us better at making things good and good at making things better. This episode is about work. The problem with work is that we think the problem is work. We think what's wrong with the world is that there is work. We think the fact that work exists is already evidence that life is not the way it's supposed to be. And one of my favorite novels is The Runaway Jury by John Grisham. It's a story about a lawsuit brought against a tobacco company by a man dying of lung cancer. And when the lawyer for the plaintiff puts one of the owners of the tobacco company on the witness stand, they had this debate over whether or not cigarettes are inherently harmful. In other words, are cigarettes harmful only when you misuse them? Or are they harmful when you use them correctly, when you use them precisely as they were intended to be used? Now, that question is an interesting analogy for our perspective on work. No one debates that work is messed up. No one thinks that work as it takes place in our world is precisely as God intended it to be. It's not. But the question is whether the problem is inherent to work. Is work by definition the reason things are not what they should be? Or is the problem that work itself has become other than what it should be? It makes a huge difference, because if what's wrong with the world is work, then the solution to the problem is to get rid of work. But if what's wrong with the world is that something has gone wrong with work, the solution to the problem is to fix work, not to eliminate it. The solution in this case would be to work differently, not to stop working. If you've followed this podcast for any length of time, you know I think the second answer is the right one. Work is not the problem. Work has been affected by the problem, but work itself is not the problem. Here's a quick rundown from the Bible why I think that. Number one, God himself works. Genesis describes everything God did in creation as work. Jesus claimed that he worked, and so did his Father. If God does it, it can't be inherently bad. Number two, work precedes sin. The Bible is clear that sin is the problem. The Bible is also clear that sin is not original. God created a world without sin, and then sin entered the picture. Anything that was around before sin is inherently good. It all gets corrupted by sin, and that's the problem. The things themselves are not the problem. And so it is with work. Genesis 1 and 2 could not be more clear. Adam and Eve were invited by God to work before things went wrong. Work, human work, precedes sin. Number three, work continues under sin. If sin had so thoroughly ruined work that it wasn't salvageable, God would not have come to Adam and Eve after they sinned and said, keep working. He would not have invited Noah after the flood to again take up the mantle of human work and stewardship. He would not have invited Israel to act in the promised land as humanity had originally been invited to act in the garden. God doesn't respond to sin with, well, I guess that ruins everything. I'll have to start over with something other than work for you to do. No, he says, because of sin, work is going to be a pain, but I'm not changing my mind. Keep working. Work continues under sin. But it isn't just that God tells Adam and Eve to keep working. He says, keep working because I'm going to fix all this. And once I've fixed all this, work is still going to be the plan. So number four, work remains after sin. There's this thing called the new creation, the new heavens and the new earth, the world that is still to come. And in that world to come, a world in which sin has been defeated and all of its entailments will be eliminated, there's still going to be work. I'll say it again. When sin and everything it brought into the world has been taken back out, there's going to be work. Sin will be gone, but work will remain. Work remains after sin. Four things. God works, work precedes sin, work continues under sin, and work continues after sin. Four reasons for us to look at the mess that our work is today and say, work itself is not the problem. There's a problem with our work, but it's not a problem that's inherent to work. And in the next episode, I'll say a bit more about what we're supposed to do with that information. So thanks, as always, for listening to the Extreme Stewardship Podcast. My name is Michael Kibbe, and I teach Bible and theology at Great Northern University in Spokane, Washington. My behind-the-scenes partner in this endeavor is Ben Kibbe, CEO of Kibbe Consulting in Columbiana, Ohio. Our editor-in-chief is Liam Olmsted, art comes from Leah Leanhoutz, and music is provided by Dave Murray of Deridoon Guitars. If this podcast has been useful or challenging to you, shoot us an email, extremestewards@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. If you think it might be useful or challenging to anyone else, well, you know what to do. Ultimately, we hope that listening to this podcast has helped you get better at making things good and good at making things better.